Hi, it's Thomas George and welcome to this beginner's workshop in Logic Pro 10. So this workshop's designed for anyone that's brand new to music production or for someone that hasn't actually used Logic Pro before, but they want to jump in and start making their own music in Logic Pro. So in this workshop, I'll show you how you can create your own drum beats, how you can write bass parts, chords, how you can use the arpeggiator, also an overview of the mixer, and then an overview of sound design and synthesis. So if you're brand new and you want to learn how to use Logic Pro, then I recommend taking this workshop. So hello and welcome to this first lecture where we're actually going to build a song from scratch. Because when using any digital audio workstation like Logic Pro, I think the most important thing is to just jump in and start building music, because we could go through the preferences, we could go through the different settings, but really the thing I like to do, and I'm sure you as well, is just start building music straight away. There's several different ways we can make music. We can make music from a drum beat, we can make music from a chord progression, we can make music from a melody, and we're going to explore all of these in this first video. So if you're new to Logic Pro, it could look a little alien at the moment. I do have the loops open at the side, which is this loop button here. And we can open up different instruments by hitting this button on the side. But I do recommend going over to the quick help button, which is this small question mark button. If you do get stuck at any point, you can see if you hover over an item, it will tell you what the item actually does. But this is just a quick start guide. This is just the beginner's workshop, so we're not going to go over every single function and feature. We're just going to go in and start making music, because I think that's the best thing we can do for this workshop. We only have a limited amount of time, so let's go in and start making music right away. So if we hit this library button in the top left, we're going to go down and actually choose a drum kit. You can see here some of these have little download buttons. If you do want to actually download some more updates and download some more sounds for these different instruments. But for now, we're just going to leave it as it is and let's hit drum kit. So like I said, you can hit this download button and download this drum kit called Blue Ridge. I'm going to just choose one of these by random. They are meant to emulate different drum kits. And if you want to choose a more electronic drum kit, I do recommend choosing this one called Electronic Drum Kit. But first of all, let's choose drum kits and let's just choose the first one, which is called Bluebird. And then what we can do is we can either attach a MIDI keyboard, which stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface, or you could just use musical typing by hitting Command and K. So I'm just going to hit Command and K, and this will bring up musical typing. There's two views. There's the piano key view, or we can go over to musical typing. Of course, this is a drum kit, so these different keys will actually be different drums, really. So we have this one, the C, or in this case it says A because it actually matches with the A on your keyboard, which is a tom. And we have more toms, cymbals, and we can actually change octave by hitting the Z button here or just by pressing this button. And now when we hit A, you can hit a kick drum. The D or S button is a snare. The W is kind of a click, a rim shot. An E is a clap. A D is another type of snare. So if you want to create some snare rolls. It's quite hard to type on this musical typing keyboard. But of course, we can go in after and actually edit this. I'll talk about this later in the editing video, but if you want to edit some of this MIDI information, we can do it in the MIDI editor. And then going along, we have a few other things as well. We have some toms, and then this T is a closed hi-hat. The Y is a closed hi-hat, and the U is an open hi-hat. And what I just hit there was the button R. So if you hit R, this will actually record. And what we're going to do now is something called finger drumming. So this is where we play the drum kit with our fingers. It is quite difficult. If you're not used to finger drumming, I do recommend going in individually and playing in the different drum hits. But you can always build it up with finger drumming. Okay, so let's just start off with this drum beat. I'm going to use finger drumming. If you're not comfortable with finger drumming, remember you can add in each instrument individually. So you can hit this button here, this record button, or we can simply hit the button R. You'll notice the metronome will start off, And if you don't have this button on here, this metronome button, it will not continue. So make sure this button is selected. Hit enter to go to the start. And now we're going to record our first part of the song, which is going to be the drum beat. So I'm going to hit R. Then I'm going to listen to the metronome and try and get a groove along with the metronome. So it wasn't the best beat. It was out of time by quite a lot because, to be honest, I find finger drumming quite difficult. We will explore editing further, but for now, I'm just going to quickly double-click this or go over to the editor button, which is a button with some scissors, and then just drag this open, and you can actually see with these little blobs here, these blocks of information, and you can hear that this is actually the drum part. So these little blocks are MIDI data, and this triggers the sounds. So we've got this snare here. You can see on the side it says snare. Then we have a kick drum. And I can tell straight away this isn't in time. I can see because I wanted to record the kick drums on the beat, and you can see here they're not actually on the beat. So we can actually drag these in time. So you can drag any of this bit of MIDI information in time, move it around wherever you want. So I'm just going to move this kick drum here, to move this kick drum here. The snare is going to stay there. This snare is going to go here. And now let's have a listen to this drum beat, and it should sound completely different to what I played in. It's still very sloppy. It's not in time. So the easiest way to fix this is to just drag these around to where it is in time. If it is more in time, we can always go over to quantizing. So we can quantize all of these by hitting Command and A, then just simply hit the button Q, and this will quantize it. You can see these notes have moved around, and they've actually moved to the closest 16th notes, because over here on the left we have time quantize. This might look a bit complex at the moment, triplets, swing, ignore that just for now and just have a look at some of these. So you could choose 32nd notes, you can choose 16th notes, which is a semiquaver, 8th notes, which is a quaver, quarter notes, which is a crotchet, etc. So I'm just going to choose 16th notes. This is the default, and when we play this back now, it should sound more in time than it was before. Still sounds pretty sloppy. I know straight away I want this on beat 4. So I'm just going to drag this over here. And you can see here there's the hi-hats are missing. I did play this in pretty badly, to be honest, but it makes it a bit more interesting for this lecture as we can actually go through and correct it. So you can get any of this MIDI information, drag it around, drag it in time, even move it to a different drum. So this could be a high tom at the start. Instead of a kick, I do want a kick. And remember, if you make a mistake, just hit Command and Z like any other Mac application, and it will go back to where it was. So now let's play this back. So it's quite a boring drum beat, to be honest. I'm going to move this kick drum around. Just going to correct this. Just going to move this here. Let's move this around. And we can always move stuff and actually copy it or duplicate it by holding down the Alt button. I'm going to change that to a clap, and a clap here as well, and a clap at the start as well. So now let's hear this back. And I'm actually going to just copy some of these hi-hats by holding down Alt. Let's just hear this back. So there's a drum beat. It's not the best in the world, but within a few minutes, we've quickly made a beat. You can see here there's a gap where there isn't any of these little blocks. These blocks are some MIDI information. And if we go over to these little arrows over here on the top right, we can actually zoom in. You can see here, yes, we've got this MIDI information here, but then we have this gap. I did actually record over this 2-bar phrase, so we can just drag this back to where it says 3. There we go, we have a drum beat. And now we can go over to this loop button here, drag it over, and you can see it's just looping again and again and again. And now when I hit enter and then spacebar, we can hear the drum beat. We can even take off this metronome. Because we've got the drums now, we have a beat, we have some rhythm for the rest of our instruments. So let's just turn off the click by hovering over this purple metronome and clicking it, and the kick should go off. Okay, so there's the drum beat. just the first start to this video series, this Logic Pro 10 workshop. Jumping in, making a drum beat, and next we're going to look at continuing building this song, and we'll have a look at creating a bass line. So thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, welcome back. Thank you for watching the first video, just about getting started and creating a drum beat. Remember, there's plenty of different ways to actually create a song. I thought I'd start off with one of the most common ways, and that's starting with a drum beat. So we just dived in straight away in the last video, and if we click on this MIDI information here, you can see if I scroll along that we have this MIDI notes here, which creates a drum beat. Not the most complex drum beat, but I just want to show you how you can quickly dive in and create some music, even if you don't play it in perfectly, even if you don't have a keyboard or MIDI controller in front of you, because in this video before, I used musical typing, so we can access this by just hitting Command and K. And here we go. We play some drums straight away at our fingertips. We don't need any keyboards, don't need anything, just a laptop really, or a MacBook, and we can start making music in Logic Pro. So the next logical step is to add a bass line. So all we need to do is go over to the plus button. Up here, hit software instrument, and then we can hit instrument down here, choose a different instrument. I'm actually going to select empty channel strip and then hit create. The reason I want empty channel strip is because on the left here, if I select this button in the top left, this will open the library and I can go through and choose which one. We can demo these. So if we hit bass, we can click on the first one, which is fingerstyle bass. And then we can open up musical typing again by hitting Command and K. You'll notice these drum notes have changed to a bass note. So this is actually meant to sound like, obviously, a fingerstyle bass. If we go over, we have a few other ones. Fret the space, Liverpool bass. That's quite a powerful deep one. We can go through and choose some of these. We can, of course, use synthesizers if you want to use a bass synth. I quite like the sound of this one, Liverpool bass. It's obviously meant to look like Paul McCartney's bass, but let's have a listen. And I do recommend just creating a loop. So go over, you can see this gray area here, this lighter gray area on this timeline. If you select this, this will open up the cycle region. So we just go round and round whatever's in here. So if we hit play now, and we open up musical typing, we can just have a play around, have a mess around. And when playing the bass, I do recommend just listening to the drums, critically listening, especially to the kick drum. Just listen to what the kick drum is doing and try and think of a bass line around that. There's a lot more we could go into in creating bass lines. There's a lot more we can go into, for example, looking at arpeggios, but for now, we're just going to keep it super simple and just use this note C and the minor third up, which is a D sharp or an E flat. So just C and then E flat, these two notes. That's all we're going to use for this bass line. Keep it super simple. I just want to show you how you can quickly create notes. So I'm just going to have a kind of 4 to the floor feel for the bass. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Just keep it really simple and then just groove around that. Try and get some energy in while playing the bass. And I'm just going to do it with musical typing. But for this, I'm just going to actually turn off this cycle region and just play it in a load of different bass lines. Different bass parts just with these two notes, just different rhythms. Concentrate on the rhythms, concentrate on the kick drum, and then just hit record, and hopefully some of it is usable. So hit enter to go back to the start, hit Command K to open up musical typing, and then let's just hit R to record and play in some bass lines. Okay, that last bit there, I quite like the sound of that. You'll notice we've got all these loops continuing. So if this does happen, you can turn off loop by hitting the L button. This will turn off loop. And if we double click on this little green information here, this will bring up all these notes, which are the MIDI information notes. And it's putting here all the stuff we've played. Let's just zoom in a little bit with these dials up here. And let's just find that last bit that I liked. So it was this from bar 9 to bar 13, I believe. So let's just zoom out and delete all the rest of the information and just drag all this to bar 1. And then remember, to quantize, you need to select all, Command A, and then either go over to this Q button here or press the button Q on your keyboard, which is the key command or the keyboard shortcut for quantize. And now let's listen to this back. So hit enter again and spacebar. Okay, and that note at the end actually repeats at the start, so we can get rid of that. And similar to the drums video, you can just drag these bits of MIDI information around. So let's hit the spacebar. So we can drag it around if there's anything we don't like, but to be honest, I quite like how I played that. It's a very simple bass line, it's not the most complex, but it's a bass line. And it's more just to demonstrate how you can quickly make music in Logic Pro 10. So again, a lot of space, so we can go to the bottom right of this green clip here and just drag it back. If we don't like the color green, we can always hit Alt and C and choose a different color too, just so it looks different to the drums, so we can just quickly differentiate the bass from the drums. And again, we can hover over the top right of this clip and it will create a loop. So there we go, we've got the bass part and the drums. It's really, really, really simple. And if we don't like that instrument, we can always go over to the library. Remember, this button in the top left has to be selected to open up the library. Let's go to, say, synthesizers, and we could choose synth bass and select any of these. Let's try jump up bass. And we can always hit that downward arrow button to go through the different synths as well. But for this example, I'm just going to stick to the Liverpool bass because, to be honest, I think that one suited this drum sound well. So there we go, we've got the drums and now we've got the bass. And in the next video, we're going to have a look at creating some keys or keyboards just to quickly build a song, because that's really what music production is about, building songs. And for me, when you get started like this, it's a lot more fun just to go in and start making music rather than learning all the bits and bobs, learning all the preferences, learning all the settings. I recommend go in, start making music straight away, start building a track, and then learn as you go along what the different settings do. But I wanted to create this video just to show you quickly how you can create a bass line, how you can just record some bass parts in a few minutes. So thank you again for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so we've created a drum part, quickly created a bass part. Of course, this is not the final piece of music. This is just quickly showing you how you can just go in and start making music straight away, because music production, creating music, it's all about having fun really. And if you can't really have fun in the process, then what's the point, to be honest? So I just wanted to go in and start making music at home, start playing around with drum beats, start playing around with bass lines, just having a bit of fun, enjoying the process and just have a laugh. Enjoy making music. So I'm going to show you now how you can actually add some chords, and it's a similar kind of thing to the bass part, just add another instrument and then you can add chords. Of course, it can be very complex if you want to learn about chord progressions, if you want to learn about modes, if you want to learn about keys, that kind of thing. But for this, we're just going to keep it really simple, and we're going to start off with a chord. And then we're going to add on something called an arpeggiator, which goes through and individually plays the notes in the chord. And we can select what order we want that as well. So let's go over to this plus button, and we're going to add software instrument. And again, we're going to choose empty channel strip because we're going to use this library on the side. And let's go over to mallet. So we're going to choose a vibraphone. And now we're just going to do a similar kind of thing to before. Just hit the space bar. Let's play it. Open up Command K, musical typing, and this time we're going to play a chord which is C minor. So we need this button A, which is C. We need E flat, and we need G, which is this one. Okay, I'm just going to literally only hold that. So I'm going to hit R to record. and again. So if we zoom in now, you can see what I played. It's literally just holding that note every 8 beats or every 2 bars. And then if we double click on this green information again, you'll notice the MIDI notes will appear. Same as before, hit Command A to select all and hit the Q button to quantize. And you can see here that it's not completely in time. But because it's so few notes, we can just literally just drag these in place. We can see by the rest, it's all lined up. Because when we quantize, all we're doing really is just shifting these notes to the closest grid amount that we actually select on the left here. So 1/16 notes, we're selecting this 1/16 amount, and we're just shifting these notes to the closest 1/16 on the grid. So if we zoom in here, the closest 1/16 is one of these blocks here. So there's 16 blocks in a bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we're just shifting it to the closest one when we quantize. And if we change the quantize amount to another, we're just shifting it to the other closest amount. I hope that makes sense. I just want to quickly show you how you can quantize. It is important for this kind of music, especially when you want to just jump in and start making music straight away. You can see this loop's really, really, really long, all these bits here. So if we hit the L button, it will get rid of the loop and we can choose our own loop amount again. So let's hit the enter. Let's create a cycle by clicking this little grayed out area up here. We can drag this to the desired amount. I'm just going to choose 16 bars. You can see here when we zoom in, 16 appears and it will loop around 16 bars. And now you'll notice every 2 bars, so every 8 beats, it will play this chord again. It works. It's not the most exciting thing in the world. So what we're going to do now is add on something called an arpeggiator. So if we hit this I button inspector, you'll notice this channel strip will appear. This looks similar to the channel strips you get on kind of old-fashioned mixing desks. And an arpeggiator is actually a MIDI effect. We have these effects here. These are audio effects, but MIDI effects will actually control the MIDI data. It won't control the audio. It will control the MIDI. So we have a MIDI effect, and if we click on this, we have arpeggiator, chord trigger, modifier, modulator, note repeater, randomizer, scripter, transposer, and velocity processor. And we're going to choose arpeggiator. And all arpeggiator really does is just separate the notes and play them one at a time. So this chord had 3 notes. So if we click on this, you can see 1, 2, 3. It's just going to play these notes individually, in whatever order we select here. So we have a few different options here. I'm just going to show you the first few. So we have up, then down, and then down, then up. I hope that makes sense. You'll probably realize a bit more when we listen to it. We have different variations, and we have oct range, which stands for octave range. So this, we're just going to use 1 octave, so just the notes that are played here. So you can play different octaves if we select different octave ranges. So this isn't a whole course just on the arpeggiator or the MIDI effects. This is a very complex subject. I'm just quickly going over it just so you know really how to make music fast in Logic Pro 10 and make music today, because that's the most important thing about this workshop. I want you to be able to make music today. So we've got the arpeggiator here. I'm just going to hit the spacebar. I'm going to choose the first one, which is up, and you'll notice the notes will start and then go up. They are going quite fast. You actually notice they're going every 16th notes, which is because the rate is set to 16th notes. If we choose, say, 1/4 notes, it will change to a different note every beat or every quarter note. To be honest, that sounds a little bit too slow for me, so let's go in between and choose 1/8 notes. So there'll be 2 notes every beat. Okay, there we go. Let's choose this order down. So you can hear it starts on a high note and goes down. Let's choose this one for now. Let's just quickly have a look at octave range. You can obviously hear it goes higher, it goes to a different octave, and it will jump to more octaves if we increase the octave range. But for now, I'm just going to choose 1. And that's just quickly how you can add some chords or keyboard parts. Of course, we don't only have to use this one part, we can actually stack these or layer these. I'm actually going to layer this with a piano. It's quite common to layer a vibraphone with a piano. So what we can do is hit this little button up here next to the plus button, which will duplicate this information. So now what we need to do is select this MIDI information here in the timeline, hold down Alt, drag it down. And now when we go over to vibraphone, let's turn off this I button and go over to the library inspector again. And now let's go over to piano and choose an instrument here. Remember, if you don't have all of these different instruments here, you can always hit these little buttons to download them, or go over to Logic Pro X, then go over to Sound Library, and then go over to download all available sounds. So like I said, Logic Pro X, Sound Library, download all available sounds. That's just one way to get access to these sounds. Okay, so we're going to choose piano, and let's just choose Steinway Grand Piano, a classic piano. Let's just hear this back. It just sounds really low and muddy. It's a really low note for the piano. So what we're going to do now is select all of these notes and actually jump this up an octave. You can see on the side it says C1. So just drag this bottom note to where it says C2, and now it's up an octave. You'll notice though, the piano isn't actually arpeggiating. It's just playing the notes. It hasn't copied it over the arpeggiator. So what we need to do is open up the mixer, which is this button here, or shortcut X. And then if we scroll up, you can see we have the arpeggiator, and the one selected, it says there Steinway. And if we go down, it says Steinway Piano. So all we need to do is hold down Alt and drag this over. And now this has copied the arpeggiator with the exact settings as the vibraphone. So if we hit Enter, hit spacebar, you hear there's a piano sound and a vibraphone. This piano sound doesn't really sound the best, so we can go through and choose a different instrument if we wish. We could choose guitar. Let's choose, say, acoustic guitar, hit Enter and spacebar. You'll notice one thing: when we change instrument, it does actually get rid of this MIDI information. So let's go back to the mixer. Let's hit X and let's hold down the Option button and drag over this arpeggiator MIDI effect once again. And the reason you can only hear this guitar is because it's soloed. If we hit the S button, it will solo, the M button, it will mute. Simple as that. So let's just unsolo this, hit Enter to go back to the start, and then hit spacebar to play the track. You'll notice these little dials here. These obviously just control the volume, so I'm just going to turn the vibraphone down. And you can even mute the vibraphone if you wish. But I'm going to have the vibraphone there just a bit quieter. And there we go, that's how we can quickly create a song in Logic Pro 10. It's not the best song in the world, but for this example, I've just showed you how you can create a drum beat, how you can create a bass line, and how you can create a keyboard sound or other sounds such as a vibraphone, an acoustic guitar, via playing in some chords and also using an arpeggiator. So this is just a quick way to start making music. I hope you found something useful out of this. And just remember, if you're brand new to Logic Pro 10, just go in, start making music, and start creating a beat today. So thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi, in this video, we're just going to quickly have a look at the mixer in Logic Pro 10. So there's a couple ways we can actually open up the mixer. The first way is by hitting the key command X, and you'll see this mixer appear. It's similar to an old analog desk, the dials, the pan knobs, and a few other things as well. Or we can go up to this button up here, hit this. This will open the same display, or we can hit the key command, Command 2, and this will open the mixer in a new window, and we can drag this to our desired size. But for this, I'm just going to have the mixer in the same window just to keep everything neat and tidy. If you're using external monitors, sometimes using this mixer in a different window can help. You could put this on another monitor. However, if you're just using, say, a MacBook, it can be quite useful just to have everything on the one screen. So we can scroll up and down, or we can drag this mixer up and we can see more of what's going on. So there's a loop going on from the track we made previously. Let's just hear this. And we really don't want to go too hot when we're listening to music. It's better to have a good level that isn't in the red. because if anything goes over 0 decibels or 0 dB, it will clip and distort and can ruin the song. We can always turn up the track later on when we're mastering, but for this, just make sure everything isn't too loud. And the easiest way we can do that is to quite simply just get these faders here and just drag them down. And now you can see when I click on this button here, it will go back to default. Stop the level getting too hot. So just go through and make sure the level isn't too hot. You really want the green, maybe orange, but you don't want any red. And definitely make sure the stereo out is below 0 dB. Ideally, you want a bit of headroom, you want a bit of space. So don't push it too hot. Remember, you can always make it louder later on. You can see here, it starts off at 1.5. So that's really too hot, it's too loud. So let's go through, just turn some of this down. It's much better to have it a little bit quiet than to have it clip or too loud. We can always turn up our headphones. If it's too quiet, we can always turn up our headphones, then turn everything else down. Or turn up our speakers, our monitors. Just make sure it's not too hot. Make sure it's below 0 dB. Now the highest level is -6, which is fine. Maybe turn it up slightly more. So that's the first thing I recommend doing if you're looking at the mixer in Logic Pro. Next one is these dials here, which are pan dials. So if you want it going to the left or to the right, for example, this acoustic guitar now will go to the right. And if we solo this, you'll notice it's just coming out your right speaker. If we move it again, it'll come out the left. So I'm just going to pan this to the left. And let's pan this vibraphone to the right, just so we get a bit more space in the mix. We get that stereo spread as well. Normally the lower instruments, like the kick drum or the bass, you will have less panning, normally in the middle, and the higher you go, the more you can pan. That's a generalization. I do recommend experimenting, but we can always go through and pan things. You notice here, input drum kit. If we click on this, it will bring up the instrument. We can go down to drum kit and we can actually choose multi-output. The reason we want to choose multi-output is we can have different faders now for different drum hits. So say we want the snare a bit louder or a bit quieter, you can go through and find the snare. The way we do that is you'll notice this plus button has appeared. So if we hit this, you'll notice kick, hit again, snare, hit again, got toms, hit again, hi-hat / percussion, hit again, and it says aux 9, so we don't need that one. So now we have the hi-hats, percussions, we have the toms, we have the snare, and we have the kick on separate channels where we can add different effects, we can pan these, and we can change the volume amount. So I'm just going to actually mute this kick now, and if we listen back, you'll notice there's no kick drum. And if we unmute it, you should notice there's the kick. Of course, down here we have mute and solo. Let's just solo the snare. So let's just make the snare a bit quieter. We even pan the snare. Normally I wouldn't pan the snare like this. However, we can. We've got toms as well. We've got the toms as well, which aren't really doing anything. So let's just leave that one. Then we have the hi-hat percussion. You'll notice if we drag this fader down, there's no hi-hats or percussion. Make it louder. We'll solo it. We can hear the hi-hats and these clap sounds as well. Okay, that only works with multi-output instruments. You can't do this with all of the instruments, but ones like this drum kit, you can. We have a few other things as well. We have different effects we can add down here. So if we hover over this blank space here, and if we click, you'll notice we can get all these different effects. Some of these ones, like X Noise, are from third-party manufacturers that are not included with Logic Pro. But these ones all here are all included with Logic Pro. So if you have any of the plugins that aren't included with Logic Pro from another company, they will be under audio units here. Let's just have a look at these ones from Logic Pro. So we have stuff like amps and pedals, delay, distortion, dynamics, that's things like compressors, de-essers, limiters, EQ, filters, modulation, pitch, loads of stuff. I'm not going to go through all of these. I could make an entire huge course just on the effects. I just want to show you how you can actually use it though. So you can add these effects here. So for example, on the kick, let's just add pitch and let's choose pitch shifter. Then we have the semitones, the amount we want to pitch it. and then we have the mix. So I'm going to pitch it up to 12 semitones, which is 1 octave. So let's now have a listen to the kick. Doesn't sound very good, but you can definitely hear it's higher. And if we turn it off with this dial here, or bypass it, you'll notice we've got timing here as well. You could change this to say drums, and hopefully it won't sound as bad now. But yeah, it doesn't really work with a kick drum. So not all of these plugins are going to sound amazing with every single instrument. So it's really about experimenting and going through. Another common one is EQ. So go over to EQ, channel EQ. That's the standard one, stereo, and you might recognize this here. And if you play now, we can hit this button that says Analyzer, which will show us some of the waves. And we can get rid of some of these frequencies, increase these frequencies. But I'd only really EQ if you need to. Only really EQ if there's a problem or something that you need to change. Don't just EQ for the sake of it. I hear of people just EQing, getting rid of the low, getting rid of the high, just for the sake of it, but only really EQ if there's a problem in the mix. So that's EQ. So each of these is a different frequency, and we have different band types, and we can increase or decrease the band types with this little ball here. So I'm just really quickly going through. I just want you to have a look at this mixer and kind of understand how to use it if you're brand new to Logic Pro. You'll notice here this little box has appeared, and this is actually the EQ. We have a little section for the EQ because it's such a common plugin to use. And then if we go down, notice this one here has a box and this one doesn't. That's because it's a MIDI instrument. If there's a MIDI instrument, you can add a MIDI effect like an arpeggiator. However, if it's an audio instrument or an audio track, or even part of a multi-instrument, you cannot add a MIDI effect. So this one here, the Liverpool bass, was a MIDI instrument, so we can add a MIDI effect. But if we do have an audio track, like a sample, a recording of a microphone, we won't be able to add a MIDI instrument because it's not a MIDI track. Okay, and then going down, we have the inputs. So we can choose the inputs. Then we have the plugins. Then we have something called buses. So this allows us to send this instrument to a bus track or another track. And this is quite useful for adding effects such as reverb or time-based effects like delay as well. So we can actually send this instrument to another track, and then we can add some effects on this as well. So we get a nice blend, or we can send several instruments to the same track just to share the same effects. This is useful if you want to save on CPU or computer power, and it's also useful if you want to have the exact same effect on one of these tracks. So let's just send the snare. If we click on this, we can go to bus. This does look quite complex, but let's just choose bus 1. And bus 1 is actually this one here. You can see up here it says bus 1 via the input. And then we can actually send this track to bus 1. So if we just move this dial here all the way up, it's going to send that much to this track here. And this track you can see has this space D and channel EQ. Space D is Space Designer. It's a type of reverb. So if you send it now, you can hear this reverb. If we solo this one here, you can hear there's that sound, which is actually reverb. So we can get a blend of reverb. We can increase it like so. We can open up the reverb. This might look quite complex. So this is Space Designer. It's a type of reverb. It's a common one used in Logic Pro. I wouldn't worry too much about using this right now. I just more want you to understand how you can actually use these things called buses to bus over, basically send your track to another track, and you can add effects. So if we click on this one here, we can add other effects. So we could add, say, delay and choose echo. I'm sure you know what echo is. Okay, let's just leave that as it is, echo. Then if we just play now, you can hear there's an echo. If we mute this, the echo's gone. If we unmute it or solo it, we can hear the echo. So that's a quick crash course really into what busing is. And if we go down, we have the outputs. So right now it says stereo out, which means this is getting sent to stereo out, which is this here. So it's getting sent to the output. Then we have groups, if we want to group some of these tracks together. And then we have automation type, which I'm going to skip over now. This is really if you want to change some of the effects over time. We can do this via automation, but I'm going to skip that just for now. And then we can go down, we can see a little picture of the instrument so we can quickly find which one it is. Then we have the panning. Then we have this fader here, and then we can solo or mute. And that's basically the mixer. I'll just show you quickly what automation is. If we go over and hit this button here, this little button, this is automation, and we can basically change the effect over time. So right now, you can see it says volume. So if I drag this down, it's going to change this effect over time. So it's going to gradually increase the volume. So if we solo this acoustic guitar, you'll be able to hear it gradually increase in volume. Gradually get louder and louder. And there's other things we can choose. We don't only have to choose volume, but just for this example, it's going to be volume. So that's just a quick crash course in the mixer and the basic interface of this mixer in Logic Pro. Because at first it can look quite complex. Just remember, each one of these is an instrument. Each strip going down is an instrument. So we have the settings button here, if we want more settings. Then we have this EQ here. Then we have inputs. We have audio effects. Then we have buses if we want to send it to another track. Then we have outputs. Then we have group if we want to group these together. Automation type, a little picture of the instrument or the track. Then we have pan, so send it left or right. Then we have basically the volume amount, the fader here. Then we have solo, and we have mute, and then we have the name of the instrument. So that's it. That's the mixer in Logic Pro 10. Thank you for watching this video. Okay, in this video, we're going to have a look at a synthesizer called the Retro Synth. So the Retro Synth is quite a straightforward to use synthesizer in Logic Pro, and I'm just going to quickly go over how you can use this synth. It's just an overview video. I'm not going to cover every function and feature. However, if you're brand new to Logic Pro 10 or you're brand new to sound design and synthesis, I'm sure this lecture could really help you out. So we need to first of all create a new instrument. We do this by hitting this plus button over here, and then this box will appear. Then where it says instrument, we can choose Retro Synth. So we can go down to where it says Retro Synth and choose stereo. And then we need to hit create. We're just going to select one track. I'm going to leave the output as where it is. So hit create. Then you'll notice Retro Synth will appear right here. And there's a few things we could do. We can open up musical typing and typing the notes by hitting Command and K. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use an Apple loop and just drag this information into Logic Pro. So I'm just going to first of all close Retro Synth by hitting the X in the top left, then go over to this loop button here, and this will open up some of the loops. If you don't have as many loops as this, remember you can always go over to Logic Pro X in the corner, go down to Sound Library and download all available sounds. This will allow you to actually download more loops and more sounds for Logic Pro. These green ones here means it's MIDI information, and the blue ones here means it's audio. So we're going to use MIDI. Let's hear this one, 12-string dream. If we drag it here, you'll notice it will create a new instrument, which is this guitar style sound. But if we drag it up, it will actually go onto Retro Synth. So we can delete this acoustic guitar, this default one it comes with, and we're actually just dragging the MIDI information. So we can delete this, and if we double click on the here, you can see this MIDI information right here. So let's just close this by dragging it down, and then create a loop by clicking on this gray area up here. Then we can loop this to just 2 bars. Okay, I'm going to close the loop library, and then I'm going to go over to the left, make sure this I button is selected, and then click on Retro Synth. And here Retro Synth will appear. So I'm just going to move this over here, and then just hit the spacebar, and it will go round and round. So this is the default sound. If we click on this button here, we do have different presets we can go over: synth lead, synth pad, synth bass, strings, keyboards, brass, sequence elements, and warp synths. But let's just start with the basic sound. Okay, so we have 2 different oscillators here, so we have different waves we can choose that create different sounds. So we have these ones here: noise, saw, square, and we have shape 2. A similar kind of thing as well, but we have a triangle. You can see here by the sound. Basically, all these sound waves do is create a different sound. And we have this dial here between oscillator 1 and oscillator 2. So oscillator 1 is this one here. And oscillator 2, if we drag this down, is this one here. You can hear the slight differences. Now, if we drag it up, you hear the differences now. Or we could have a mixture between the two. Then we have a few other options we can do here with shape modulation, vibrato. Then we have semitones if you want to tune it, and sense as well. So the sound really goes here. It starts off with the waves, then it goes over to this filter here, then it goes over to the amp, and then it goes over to the effects. So this is the wave section here. This is where we create the waves, we create the oscillators, we create the sounds, and then it moves over to this filter. What we can do is drag this little graph over. You notice the sounds getting disappeared. We're only playing the sounds inside the graph. Anything here is going to be cut off. If we select this little box here, we can have different types of filters. So LP means low pass, which means it allows the lows and cuts the highs. You can see here, these are the lows. On the left is the lows, on the right is the highs, because the frequency goes over from low on the left to high on the right. You can see here it's adding the highs and taking the highs away. And we have a few other ones as well. High pass is the other way around. It means it allows the highs and cuts the lows. So on the left, the lows, they're getting cut. So you can hear it's just the highs, and we bring back the lows. And then we have a few other ones as well. I'm just going to quickly go over this. We have band pass, which allows a band in the middle here. So it cuts these highs and it cuts these lows. So we can choose which band of frequencies we want. The most common one is a low pass. So let's just select low pass again. So we're just cutting away these highs and allowing the lows. You can turn on the filter with this button here. And that's basically the filter. Then we have a few more effects below for the filter. We have an LFO. So this is kind of another section here which allows us to control other areas. And then we have LFO over here. So LFO is a waveform we use to control other things. And then you'll notice down here we have filter envelope. This is another way we can actually control things. And we can choose the amount with these dials here, envelope. So we can drag this around. You can hear it comes in slower. This is actually time. So this is the attack. And then we have LFO. You can hear we're getting this vibrato sound. So this is how much of the LFO we're using with this. It's quite complex. I'm just going over this very fast. A filter, FM as well. Then we have amp, which is the envelope for the level or gain of the overall patch. So you can see here with the drag over the time, the attack this is. It's a slow attack, fast attack, slow attack, fast attack. Then we have the amp here, so we can choose the volume. And the sine level. And then we have a flanger, which is an effect. So if you want to add an effect, you can hear this flanger effect, I'm sure you know. Or chorus. So we can add this effect. Like I said, I'm just quickly going over this. There's a lot more settings. We have the sync, we have the table, we have the FM. And then we also have settings down here as well. But I just want to quickly show you how synthesis really works. This isn't a tutorial all about retro synth. I just want to show you there's an order of things really. It goes from the oscillators here, the wave shapes. We have two oscillators in this case, and it goes over to a filter where we can cut out some of the sounds. Then it goes over to the amp where we can really control the volume. And then we have the effect. That's basically it. A lot of synthesizers are very similar to this. Like I said, this isn't a full in-depth tutorial about retro synth. This is just explaining quickly how synthesis works. So just remember the signal starts over here and it moves over to the right. And that's basically a very quick overview of retro synth. I do recommend going in and having a look at the presets, go through and try and backwards engineer and work out what's actually going on. Some of these will have these different interfaces and they can look confusing, but I do recommend just going through and having a play around and start off with this basic analog interface and then continue and learn from there. But like I said, this is just a quick crash course into synthesis. I hope you found this video useful and I'll talk to you soon. So thank you for taking this workshop with me. I hope you found it useful. This workshop, however, was just a quick crash course in Logic Pro. If you'd like to continue learning with me and take your skills to that next level, I do recommend having a look at my complete Logic Pro 10 course. This course is over 15 hours long and we do dive a lot deeper into Logic Pro. Full price of this course is $195, but if you check out the link in the description below, you can get this course for only $9.99. So thank you again for watching this workshop. I hope you found it useful and I'll talk to you soon.